You're listening to Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Two fans, two generations, all things Star Wars begins now.
All right, hello everybody. I'm Eric Vansel, and as you can see, I'm on my own. I'm waiting. Daryl's now having some technical problems, but I didn't want to make you guys wait any longer. So, all right, let's roll this out. This is something that we have been talking about for a long time, and that is, of course, and I see that Grandmaster is on with us today, which is good because we're going to get a lot of insight, I'm sure. And I know he's got a lot to say about this. And of course, Ted's joining us tonight. So that's awesome. And it's kind of funny because when we were having some issues jumping on, and, again, I apologize for some of the technical difficulties and, just a lot of the things that have been going on lately. It's just been kind of crazy for both of us. So, that's how it goes. But when we were having some issues, Grandmaster said, I got a bad feeling about this. So, yeah, I guess Daryl's computer, once I had jumped on, it cut out or something. But hopefully he gets it back. Either way, we're going to talk about this. I promised you guys that we would be on tonight and that we would talk about this. We're going to talk about it. Unfortunately, when all this news was breaking, we were essentially just, there he is. Hang on. Let me get him in. Hopefully he has audio. There he is.
Hey.
There's the light. All right. It sounds like he got audio. So good. I didn't really say too much, but I'm just talking about this is something that you and I have been talking about for a couple of weeks now. And unfortunately, we have been just held hostage by our Visions review.
Right.
So we really couldn't address this the way that we wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I know that one of the things that Grandmaster has been talking about in the Discord is that Kathleen Kennedy is not truly out. She's just more or less stepping down from the president's role, but she's still going to produce. And, of course, I made the comment that that's great because that's actually what she's best at doing.
Mm-hmm.
And, she's probably going to influence a little behind the scenes, but not as much. And I got to get this one in. Referencing what we just said about our Visions review. Visions was great until it wasn't.
Yeah, right.
Well,
right.
and, that segues actually into this topic because honestly, if you had said 3, 4, 5 years ago, whatever it was, Dave Filoni is going to take over as, in this case, it's co-president. Look, we know there's, I keep forgetting the woman's name. It's like Luann or Lynwen or something like that.
Yeah.
But look, the bottom line is she's basically running the business part of it. Nobody cares. I mean, I don't mean to be blunt, but in this discussion, we're framing this as, okay, there's a definite creative thing. Because if you look at the way that Kathleen Kennedy ran Lucasfilm, she was pretty much involved a lot in the creative. And Lynwen? Is that
Lynwen?
Lynwen?
Yes.
Okay.
Lynwen Brennan.
I knew it. Brennan. That was the last name. She's probably, if you think about it, she's probably more the president per se, because again, she's the one that's actually running a lot of the business stuff. Filoni is going to be more or less in charge of the creative. But the reason why that's key is because Filoni no longer he's no longer going to have anybody like Kathleen Kennedy who's above him in his way. Unless.
Yeah, the thing is, because the thing is, what made Kathleen a little bit more threatening than most presidents is the fact that she worked with George longer, right? Because that's the thing about Kathleen is like she's been kind of by George's side from the production standpoint for a long time when George was running, Lucasfilm. So has Filoni, but Filoni was more so for the animation stuff, which was more, I guess you would say, more recent. And Kathleen Kennedy had been there, you know, a little bit, well, probably longer than Dave Filoni as far
Oh, yeah,
as
I mean, I
on the
remember,
business side.
I mean, especially, look, okay, we all know, or anybody that's been watching this show for a while knows that I've been a Star Wars fan since 1977. I mean, I was 6
Mhm.
years old when I saw it, before it was even A New Hope, when it was just called Star Wars. In the theaters, May 1977, there I was. And of course, I kept track of a lot of that stuff, even more from the business end, maybe starting in the late 80s, early 90s, especially when the EU started to come in. Because that's when I started to care, because I really loved the EU stories. And I was on board with the EU from day one. I knew that, of course, they weren't canonized, right? I mean, Lucas basically licensed it, thinking that it was never going to do anything. And much to probably his complete horror, it took off, like in a big way, right? And so,
Yep.
with that, in order to start this, because we got some pretty good. Oh yeah, Grandmaster even said Lynwen is the new president. So now Grandmaster is going to set a few things straight. He says Filoni and Hidalgo are creative. Okay,
Pablo Hidalgo, yes.
right. And then Favreau is head of production with Kathleen assisting and advising, which is fine. I mean, to me, again, that's the inner workings of that. I don't care. The point is that Kathleen is not the be all end all anymore. Assisting and advising is a lot different than vetoing and firing, in my mind,
True.
anyway.
True.
Ted basically says, and my goodness, people, Kathy is 72 years old. Not to be ugly about the actuarial tables are at play now. She's definitely on the, definitely on the way out.
Mhm.
Yeah. She's kind of like Emperor Palpatine, man. She refuses to let go of the Empire.
Yeah, exactly. This power I will lay down. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
sure you will. Sure you will.
And that's the thing. I mean, I think that in a lot of ways, this is going to be interesting. I mean, look, do I think that, like, a lot of YouTubers are saying, like, okay, this is going to be this huge, grandiose shakeup? No, I don't. In fact, I honestly think that really we're not even going to feel the effects of this change for quite some time, because people seem to forget there's a lot of things on the docket that Kathleen was still involved in. I mean,
Hmm.
you got to run the cycle out. It kind of reminds
Yeah.
me of when Disney or somebody, they ended a woke policy or something. And it's like everybody was celebrating, like, yay, no more woke movies. And I'm thinking, well, yeah, except for the 20 that have been produced already. you
Oh,
know,
that
you,
was Marvel.
well, maybe, yeah, that's right. That's right. It was Marvel. That's right.
Hmm.
Same thing.
But
You
yeah, I
know,
mean, yeah,
I
same
mean, it's the
house.
same.
Yeah.
It's the same point, though. You know,
Yeah.
and that's it. People are gonna want to look. The particulars are interesting from a factual standpoint, and certainly that could be given to us ad nauseum on the Discord channel, which is where we really like to extend the discussions. What I really want to focus on once it actually hits, because again, like I just said, it's going to take a while for the influence of Kathleen Kennedy to go away. I mean, longer influence, but what I'm talking about is like projects that she's already greenlit, started, you know, that whole thing, right? It's not like
Hmm.
this whole new team takes over and boom, we're going to see all these changes overnight. No, I don't see that. Could be wrong, but I don't see that. Oh, Grandmaster's got some. Of course, if anybody's on Discord, you know him. 2028 is when you will see the new Star Wars. Yes, I mean, and that makes sense because a lot of these projects have basically gone through 27. And, you know, Grandmaster, if you'd like to share with the rest of the class on projects that you know about that are on slate for 26 and 27, because be honest, there's been so much shuffling. Like, I know Ahsoka season 2. You know what? I don't know. I thought that
We got
maybe,
a so.
well, I thought that maybe it was on track for 26, but I do know that it actually did go through a delay at one point. and I'm not sure if that's on
Well,
track. There's also a movie that was originally supposed to come out after The Mandalorian and Grogu, and that's been moved. There's just like a lot.
I mean, you got Ahsoka season 2. You have um, Mandalorian Grogu. You have Starfighter.
Yeah.
Those are all kind of pretty much been slated for the next coming year or so. um, Now, Lando is still on the table. We don't know where that's going to land. No pun intended. Uh, and then let's see. There's still the James Mangold movie, and then there's still the Ray centric, rebuilding
Yeah,
the
which
Jedi Order
Daisy
type
Ridley
thing.
actually just came out not too long ago and was once again threatening the world with, yes, this movie is still coming out.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Grandmaster says,
Yeah.
well, a few things. They have lots of drafts and asking for new ones, but nothing is greenlit aside from what Kathleen greenlit previously. Goes on to say that Filoni's Mandoverse movie is now being downgraded to a Disney Plus show. I had heard that. And then, of course, Darth Maul and the Ninth Jedi as well. Yeah, and actually, April, I think, is when we're getting the Shadow Lord Darth Maul series.
Mm-hmm.
So, if I'm not mistaken, that's probably the next thing that we're going to see. Is a Shadow Lord, and then, of course, the Mandalorian and Grogu. Grandmaster also says Dawn of the Jedi is also shelved. Yeah, I mean, a lot of this doesn't surprise me because, to be honest, if you really stop and think about the history of a lot of these projects, there's a lot of projects that get announced, and I'm sure a lot of times it was in good faith. Everybody thought it was going to be produced, and then he says Lando is still shelved too. What's your what's your over under on whether or not Lando actually gets made,
Yes.
percentage wise?
Uh,
This ought to be fun.
right.
Oh,
I think it's
see if it
um
jives with my number. It's like I'm thinking of a number between 0 and 100.
yeah, I think there's a 70% chance that it gets made.
Wow. It's literally the exact flip side of me because I say it's a 30% chance. So basically, you're saying 30% chance it doesn't get made, 70% it does. I'm saying 30 it does, 70 it doesn't.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
I will put a little asterisk in that because once 2028 rolls around, the new team is really starting to develop their own stuff. I will admit there is a chance that it could definitely get made at that point.
See, here's the weird part about all this, though, because it's very contingent. Because let's just say the projects that we know right now are coming out. We know Ahsoka season 2, we know Mandalorian Grogu, and we know Starfighter. Let's just take those three. If those three fail, is
Yeah, I
there a
mean,
start? Is there enough time to even like? Because
well,
by that point you have lost the fan base, and so it's almost no point in trying to make these
the fan
movies.
base is all but lost anyway. I mean, the Mandalorian and Grogu movie is going to actually tell us how much of the fan, because you have to look at it from the classic film standpoint, right? I mean, really the box office, a theatrical release, that's going to really tell you what
All
the
right.
interest in Star Wars is, because that's where Star Wars was born, and I think that's where a lot of the casual fans live. I really don't think, people like us are going to nerd out, right? We're going to debate things like whether or not the Acolyte was good or bad, or, you know, what are some of the strong points of Ahsoka, or, you know, should there be a Lobot standalone movie, or, that kind of thing, right? But most of the fans, I think, are just, they're there for the movies. And I think a lot of them have tuned out. So I don't necessarily want to say that Star Wars is fully dead, like a lot of YouTubers do. Um, but I think that The Mandalorian and Grogu is definitely going to be the actual be-all, end-all of whether or not this franchise really survives. Because, again, it was once invincible. And then, of course,
Well,
it's
let me ask.
under Disney, it started taking a bunch of hits. And now, well, you and I always give the analogy of in episode 3, when Obi-Wan and Anakin rescued the Emperor and they're, we're still flying half
The
a ship.
flying half ship.
I think we've even moved past that point. I think we're kind of breaking in the atmosphere, and they're just trying to hold it together. But go ahead. What'd you want to ask?
Well, yeah, my thing is, I guess my question for you and to everyone else is, because Mando. See, the cool thing about the Mandalorian and Grogu, it's it's kind of already been established as a good show. Characters already been developed. Most things have been fleshed out already, right? I personally think that Starfighter is going to be the one,
Oh,
because you're
100%.
taking
Because that
because
actually has a wider.
it's a complete.
Yeah.
Well, not only that, but it's like it's characters we've never seen before. It's a
Yep.
brand new film with people, like I said, we don't know characters. We don't know. We don't know the story. We don't know. It has none of the characters or the people that we are familiar with. You're literally creating like a brand new Star Wars
Yeah.
with that particular film. I
Mhm.
think that's going to really determine the trajectory of Star Wars, because it's like you can't create something Mandalorian was a good start because you're dealing with um, some familial tropes and things, like you kind of have a Yoda stand in, you kind of have a Boba Fett, Jango Fett stand in. You had Luke, you had Ahsoka pop up. You've had certain things kind of carry you and kind of add a little bit of, razzle dazzle, if you will, sprinklings of the Force here and there. So, yeah, I think Mandalorian was the start of pushing into an era where, okay, we're getting away from the traditional Skywalker saga, and it's successful. I think that was great. However, now with Starfighter, though, can Starfighter stand on its own? Can it be its own Star Wars thing that people actually give a crap about?
Well, I think that it has if it truly is like Top Gun in space, I think it has a good shot. Let me get some of these. There's a lot of chats now. So Grandmaster says the Ray trilogy is waiting for a new draft, which wasn't submitted by the now past deadline. What a shock. And of course, Dom joins us to troll us as usual. And I will continue the challenge of, turning his trolls into legitimate comments and commenting on them. He says, where is it? Dom, you retract it? Well, he says, who wants a show about Lando? And hey, I mean, I might have been a little skeptical about a Lando-centric show before Solo.
I'm going to say I'm going to troll Don back and say, hey, watch it. It's Black History Month.
Yeah, right. In February, you might want to tiptoe through criticizing a black character, dude.
Turn that down just a little bit.
Yeah, let's bring the racism down a tad. It's like,
tell you who wants to see it.
Oh, that was good. That was good. Grandmaster said, if it's done well, then yes, but the draft wasn't good. Well, all right. I guess there is that. And then he says he agrees with you that Mando and Grogu is a barometer right now. We're both saying that. I mean, I think that's a no-brainer, man. I think that, honestly, the Mandalorian and Grogu is going to be the tipping point where Star Wars could actually be somewhat redeemed and maybe go on an upward trajectory. Keep it space themed. Or, it could start plummeting even faster than it already is. Dom goes on to say, you won't say it, but I will. Star Wars died once they announced Rey. With an E, not an A, but
Eh,
well, you know, let's just say that Disney hasn't been the best stewards of Star Wars, and leave it at that. I don't 100% disagree, but there are a lot of
right.
projects that I think were good, and there's a lot of things I think were good. I mean, Rogue One especially, and Andor, and
Well, I'm gonna ask Dom this question. I mean, I know he's just
oh,
trolling a
you're
little
gonna
bit,
turn
but
it around. All right. Yeah, well, he
you know,
deserves it, little
hey,
punk.
told you it's the month, man. So, is it the fact that it's like,
Dude, he thinks The Matrix
do
is
you
the
have the?
best ever.
Oh my,
Yeah,
okay,
that
so
right there tells you all you need to know.
he's right up there with David Fast and the Furious. All
Yeah,
right, so
yeah. Actually,
is 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 the issue that you have, is it the character of Ray, or is it the fact that it's a woman lead that bothers you? That's the question.
I don't necessarily. I mean, no, not to answer because
I just need
he's
him to
still chatting.
clarify it.
No, I mean, I don't think that a woman necessarily, like a woman lead, bothers him. I honestly think, and of course, I'm sure he'll chat it in a couple of seconds. Oh, I guess I was wrong. It's a woman lead.
See, that's why I needed him to clarify. That's why I
Well,
needed him to clarify.
I just basically, well, all right. Well, that's
See, the
that was
little
an epic.
pukesters always.
That was an epic disaster. That was an acolyte level disaster right there. So Grandmaster says Kinberg right now is very busy with other projects. Star Wars is not on his priority list. He has 5 projects he's writing currently. None of those are Star Wars. He goes on to say, everyone gave Rey a chance in The Force Awakens. After that one, people started to give up. Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, I agree.
Overpowered.
And like I said, I don't think it's the I don't think it's the character of Ray. I think it's how she was portrayed. I think
yeah, it
that
was the
if
writing.
you
It
would
was
have,
the writing behind it.
it's the writing of it behind it was just terrible, and I think that's really, and then unfortunately, that's what
That's your story.
that's what she suffered. Yeah, I mean that's your story, and unfortunately, Daisy really has to bear that. That's the thing that sucks.
Yeah.
It's no different than like, hey, we love certain characters from certain films. Like, for example, Val Kilmer is a great act was a great actor. Now, did I like him as Batman? No. However, it's how Joel Schumacher wrote the character, so I can't get mad at it. I can't get mad at Val Kilmer for playing it how he was
Yeah,
directed
you
to
know
play the
what? There was
character.
another. Oh man, there was another example that I had that's very similar to that. I don't remember what it was. But it was something similar like that, where it was like, the actor gets blasted, but it's how. Well, I mean, I could think of It's not the same one, but it's a different one. So, what's his face's portrayal of Lex Luthor? Oh man, I keep
Oh,
forgetting.
Jesse I
Yes, Jesse
Eisenberg?
maybe. Yeah,
Is
Jesse
that his name?
Eisenberg. Yeah, him.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
perfect example, man.
Yep.
There was nothing wrong with his performance. It was all the way it was written.
Mm-hmm.
When you're told to do this stuff, you're there to do a job, and it's. I mean, even
Yeah,
Mark
exactly.
Hamill, right? Mark Hamill famously disagreed with the way that Luke was being portrayed in The Last Jedi, but it's like, hey, dude, you're there to sell that project. Grandmaster goes on to say the Lando character has a good backstory, and the actor playing it is a good actor. The story and script has to be good, 100%. Okay, and then Dom goes on to say, "What did you just?" There you go.
Yeah, maybe my fault.
He said, "Rogue One was mid. Empire Strikes Back might be the worst."
You said what? Who's this? Dom?
Yeah, nobody. You'd have to be like totally eyed. Grandmaster says respectfully, Rogue One was not mid. It was the best of the new Star Wars by far, despite the production. Yeah. It's dumb. So Star Wars had a male lead since its beginning. They inserted a woman as a main character because of the female lead trend. That's
No, I agree
not
with that though.
well. It's it is true. And yeah, I guess even though, we always point to the fact that there's been a ton of strong female characters in Star Wars, Rey is the first time that she's been like, because even Padme wasn't, right? It was like Rey is the first character where she's kind of like the focal point and the main thing.
Mm,
And I'm
not
not talking
exactly,
about
because
Ahsoka.
no, because Rogue One.
Yeah, but Rogue One I would consider. I mean, first of all, she wasn't a Jedi, and she wasn't like what I think Dom is talking about is like the whole like Luke Skywalker thing. Like the whole thing is hinging on you. That it's if you think about all the leads, in the prequel trilogy, it's basically Anakin.
Mhm.
In the original trilogy, it's basically Luke, and in the sequel trilogy, it's Rey.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we can argue. I mean, I don't disagree with Dom in the sense of
Look at us turning his
yes, the
comment into a
character.
big discussion point.
Well, I mean, he's going to be here. Let's make him useful, right?
Yeah,
Um,
right.
um,
Exactly.
but no, the thing is that listen, if he's right. Kathleen Kennedy, because she went on this whole thing like the force is female and all that crap. It's like,
Mhm.
listen, okay, that has no business in Star Wars at all. We've already talked about it ad nauseum. We've talked about it ad nauseum that there aren't any strong female characters. That's a lie because, of course, where do you get Princess Leia from since the very beginning? All right, there's plenty of other characters who are strong female leads who earn their spot in the show. That's fine. The problem is just poor writing. It's just like that's the unfortunate thing, no pun intended, but when you force it, yeah. And that's just with anything. I feel like if anything is forced, it's no different than another analogy in the world of sports entertainment. Vince McMahon, in pro wrestling, granted, yes, we know it's, somewhat fictitious. However, like part of the storytelling is getting these characters over that the fans want to cheer for them or boo them. Well, if you are some characters were forced and the fans was just like, yeah, we don't want this person as our champion because, it just isn't believable. Or this person hasn't done enough to really earn our respect to make them be a champion. So,
Well, it
yeah,
goes
we
it
don't
goes
believe
back
it.
to and look, ever since like our very first show, back when it was just an audio podcast,
Mhm.
was a review of The Last Jedi. That was like, episode 0, I think we called it. And, we had talked about this constantly about the sequel trilogy that and a lot of the shows too over the years. Poor writing has been plaguing a lot of this stuff. A lot of the Disney era stuff, right? And it almost reads like glorified fan fiction sometimes. And I think the biggest issue, again, yes, is that the focus was actually put on making money and replicating, the Star Wars like phenomena. And Lucas himself was never concerned about it. He was making movies for himself basically, and if other people liked them, great. Well, they did a lot, and I mean that's just he. Now, granted, sure, did was Lucas perfect? No. Did he have some missteps? Yeah, but I mean, ultimately though, his heart was in the right place, and Lucas is always a master storyteller. Even if because it's when he would try to direct, because he just cannot direct actors. It's not a thing. Smartest thing that he did was when he got Irvin Kershner to do The Empire Strikes Back, and then Richard Marquand to do Return of the Jedi. Unfortunately, he decided to helm the sequel trilogy or the prequels himself, and I think that was a big mistake. But again, that could all be debated naturally. Let me get to some of these other. There's some stuff here. So, Grandmaster says, for clarification, the gender, a woman doesn't matter. It was badly written, exactly. Poorly written character and a horrible story. That's basically it. Ted comes in and says, "I want a good story for Daisy. Daisy to get. Ray could be awesome with the right writer, as I like the actress a lot and would totally watch a movie she led or even solo starred." And that's the thing. I mean, exactly. Grandmaster, of course, agrees. Says, "Well said, good story and well written character." And in my opinion, the best way to introduce a new Star Wars trilogy was to do a young man and a young woman, twins similar to Jason and Jaina Solo. I completely agree with that too, because I think that was something that I really enjoyed about the EU that I thought should have been ported over to launch a sequel trilogy. He says then you could have built on those characters when they separate, then reunite later. And then, of course, just keep it simple, stupid. And that's the thing. I mean, you and I talk about this all the time, right? I mean, Lucas,
Hmm.
it's once upon a time, a long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. It's basically macro storytelling. It's fantasy. It's not science fiction where you're getting into all the details and this is how a thruster works or something stupid like that. It's about themes and broad strokes. And that's something that Lucasfilm under Disney and Kathleen Kennedy just never understood.
Yeah. I mean, I just think that when it comes to this franchise, like I said, you just have to remember who and what you are.
Yeah.
Just keep the main thing the main thing. And that's really you can explore different things as long as you keep that at the core. That you have to keep the main thing the main thing. And when you start trying to deviate too much especially for the sake of being progressive for the sake of being progressive, that's when you run into problems because you don't have a reason for it. It's just you're just doing it just because you can. One of the things I learned about, when I first started learning how to edit from you, and I'm sitting at the controls, and we have the old analog system, and you were like, okay, this is how you do wipes and all this, and all these different. I can do a star wipe, or I can use a circle, or I can use a square or a triangle, and it's just like, look, how much of this stuff do you see on TV? They keep it simple. It's if you're going to use a wipe, it's a simple wipe. You don't need to do all these transitions. And that's why you can look at, a lot of people's stuff on social media because they have these tools at their disposal. They feel like they have to use them all to make it interesting. But if you actually know how to shoot and you actually know how to edit, you don't need all that crap. It's just cuts and dissolves. That's it.
Yeah, you're
So what
telling a
happens with Star
story.
Wars? Yeah, that's what happens with Star Wars. You're trying to do too much. This is where kids of this generation, you're doing too much. Yeah, this is exactly what it is. You're doing too much. Just keep it simple.
Well, I agree. And I mean, another thing too is I think there was an overcorrection. Like for instance, with Dom's comment, I support Luke being a god with enough aura to crush the entire Star Wars universe. That basically describes Luke in the expanded universe.
And especially, yeah, true.
And I mean, that was one of the complaints. A lot of people actually did like that, but I mean, it got to the point where they had to create the Yuuzhan Vong because Luke got so powerful. It was a Superman problem, right? It was like you got to
Hmm.
just create some extreme uh powerful, just some crazy overpowered villain in order to, you know, try to fight him or something or whatever. And so what happened was, of course, they wanted to make him more grounded. Well, I think that they went too far the other way. I mean,
Hmm.
I would have preferred, like, I didn't necessarily disagree with the idea of having Luke be despondent and, maybe turning away from the Force or whatever. But I think that that should not have been the state that he stayed in. Like, I think that that could have either been a plot point that maybe he used to teach Ray, like, hey, I once rejected the Force and did whatever, whatever. Then I came back and, realized or whatever. And now he's going on to train her. Or if they wanted to neaten it up a little bit, they could have had him be grumpy Luke in episode 8. And then for episode 9, he could have returned triumphantly, a la the end
Hmm.
of season 2 of The Mandalorian. Because that's the
Right.
Luke that everybody wanted to see.
True. And I think with even when you're making people like somebody like Luke or when you make them godlike characters, it is hard to kind of like reel that person in because it's like, well, nothing can hurt them or stop them because they're so powerful.
Hmm.
But I think what Superman has shown, which is one of the things I love about his character in the show or the movies or whichever you want to, box you want to put him in, is that his inability to break his own rule.
Yeah.
It's kind of like Batman. You
Yep.
know, Batman can't kill. As much as the person deserves it, as much as he's tempted to, he can't break his own rule. I can't kill you because that's the reason why I got into this thing in the first place. If I kill you, I'm no better than Joe Chill or whoever, did what. Superman has more boundaries. He's like, okay, just like the Jedi, they have their rules. Hey, I can't kill an unarmed person. So the fact that even though you make Luke godlike, even the actual Lord himself, if you want to take it there, he has, even though he's sovereign, he can do whatever he wants to do. He holds himself to a certain amount of rules that he has for himself, of which he's not going to put out there because it just conflicts with who he is. So it's just kind of like, I think that's the problem I think that's the cool thing about being so powerful is that when you have that much power, it requires, not to borrow from Spider-Man, great responsibility. And you have to be mindful of that
I
because you
think
can do it.
the other thing too is that, and it's more necessary to do with powerful characters, but I also think any kind of a show, movie, franchise, character, whatever, when you create parameters, you know,
Hmm.
by which they have to live, that's I think been one of the biggest problems is that we see all these explosion of force powers all of a sudden because, it's that's another example of lazy writing, right? Where it's just like, well,
Hmm.
okay, we'll just invent a new force power for this. And that's the way that they can
Right.
get over this or whatever. Or, I mean, sure, some of it they're bringing in from the EU, some of it was just maybe a natural progression of the Jedi over thousands of years or whatever. But I mean, a lot of it is just, and the problem is that when they're following a certain rule in one project and then they're breaking that very rule in another project and there's no mention of that, it's not like, hey, you remember that thing that we said we couldn't do? Well, we're going to do it right now. But again,
Hmm.
that was what's nice about Superman and Batman. Now, of course, Dom says they made that rule for Batman so that they could continue the show. He said all Batman's enemies would die in the first season movie. I would, I was going to say, I would argue that was Superman more than Batman. I mean, I guess I could see what he's saying in the sense of if Batman were murderous, he definitely would have killed the Joker
Oh
without
yeah.
question.
Well,
And so,
he could kill anybody. He's that deadly as
right,
far
and
as
that's where
between
Dom's
his
point
knowledge
is.
and his skill. Yeah,
Right, it's kind of
sure.
like, okay, well, if Batman didn't have that, that rule, then all his enemies would be dead.
Yeah. But that's what I'm saying, and that's what I mean. Like when you have powerful characters, you have to find ways to contain them so it keeps them more or less grounded, and it also makes things interesting. One of my favorite shows that I love to watch is Suits, and um, it's an attorney, based show, and they're often, in situations where they're competing with another company, and it's usually over the law, obviously, and there are certain things in the law. It's like, well, okay, we can't use this person, or you didn't disclose this information to them, so you can't use it in court. How do we get around that? How do you break, client confidentiality if you knowingly know this about it? But like, how do you, or the morality conflict of, hey, I know this person did this, but my job is to protect them. How do I, but I don't feel comfortable with them myself protecting them, even though my boss is telling me I have to. What do? I have the gun pointed at me. I have no other options. Yes, you do. You just don't want to utilize them, or you're not creative enough to think your way around the problem. That's what makes these movies That's what creates the tension. That's what creates the story. Those are the things that make things not lazy. It's because now it's a Kobayashi Maru situation. Like, I'm in an unwinnable situation. What do I do? That's my Star Trek reference for
I was
that
going to
night.
say, well,
But
first you make a Star Trek reference. It's got to be
right,
got to do
exactly.
it in almost every show we do. I mean, that's a rule.
Right.
Yeah, no. And he basically says, look, the villains keep escaping over and over and it gets boring. And I mean, I get it. It's like, I mean, I don't know. I think it depends, because any comic book based show, you're going to have difficulty writing it because you have this vast library of comics. And the whole comic book format was designed to tell long form stories, basically. You have these entire series, right? No, besides the different series that are slightly different, right? Like if we're going to Batman, you had the Batman series, the Dark Knight, Detective Comics presents Batman or whatever. Various things. Spider-Man had like 3 or 4 different series of Spectacular Spider-Man, Amazing Spider-Man, Spider-Man. You basically have not just these different series, but within them, they will tell these very long story arcs. And you can really get into character a little bit more. You can have more drawn out adventures. Whereas when you're dealing with a movie or a television series, you have to wrap it up fairly quickly. And so it could give you the illusion that, yeah, Joker got away again, that kind of thing, right? And it's, I think in a lot of ways, Marvel started to do it. I think they lost their way a little bit, but they had actually, told everybody's origin story, and they continued things. They the whole Tesseract and all that. They basically continued a lot of the themes that were introduced in the standalone films and brought them into the Avengers movies. And they continued a lot of those threads. So it felt a little bit more comic booky for a while, up until the last phaser. So I don't know. And then, of course, Grandmaster comes back and says, depth of a strong character is a no-kill rule. Dom does not share your enthusiasm for Suits.
Suits is boring. Well, that's because
Here it comes.
you don't have. Something tells me you lack the mental acuity to really understand.
I knew it. I was waiting. There was gonna either be an intelligence thing or something. It's like, yeah, let's just say when you get older.
I mean, when you think that The Matrix is the greatest franchise ever,
Yeah,
that's
that's all we need to know. Everyone loves strong characters because they have lots of depth, many layers, and Jeremy is back. Hello, gentlemen. Misa back. Awesome. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of things and a lot of ways that they can explore all these different themes. The question, though, becomes, to kind of reel this in a little bit,
right?
Is will they? I mean, a lot of the things that we presented today and a lot of the ways in which we conveyed different methods of storytelling. Will the masters at, Lucasfilm figure all this out?
Yeah, I mean, hopefully, I just think that they can pull their heads out of their behinds and really just get back to the basics of things, and really just, like I said, keep the main thing the main thing. Tell good stories, create great characters, stick to what your brand is. So don't try to do Marvel comedy, do Star Wars comedy. Don't try to be something you're not. Just be what you are. I mean, I know I hate to, sound cliche, but
I
hey,
know
it's true.
you're pretty much getting into a lot of those cliche platitudes. But you know what? Things are cliched for a reason. I'm going to say that.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, look, and Grandmaster says, before you guys go, and we always take a while to wrap up, don't worry. He says, enjoy the Mandalorian and the Mando Grogu trailer during the Super Bowl.
Yes, they are showing that next week.
Yeah. I, for one, am looking forward to it, even though, well, we did get that sneak peek, although it wasn't exactly the best.
Right.
Remember the Japanese one?
Oh,
that
yeah.
leaked?
How about that?
that
Yeah.
somebody shot in like a, I think it was done at Celebration, actually. And then, of
Like somebody
course,
shot on a razor.
yeah, Tom says, my opinions are unparalleled. Face it. That's very megalomaniacal of you. Star Wars is not the best franchise ever. Well, I mean, it's very well doing its best not to be. I will say that. If it was ever getting sick of the title of best franchise ever, it's
Yes,
doing what it can.
it's righting that wrong.
Yeah, exactly. It's righting that wrong. Grandmaster says it was, but what is anymore? All of them have been diminished now. Star Wars, Star Trek, etc. Yeah, absolutely. In fact,
Yeah.
if you look at a lot of long-standing franchises, you actually have to go back to the older, more original projects to say, yeah, this is when it was amazing.
Hmm.
Because
Yeah.
a lot of the newer versions of this stuff is just terrible. It's terrible. A lot of the new Star Treks, like that Starfleet thing, I haven't watched it, but people that I know that have, just looking at, I mean, it's a disaster. And Star Wars is headed in that direction, no doubt. I don't think they've lost their way quite as bad as Star Trek, but I think that they're
They're fighting for it.
yeah, they're fighting for it. Nam says they need to end it to preserve its legacy. I am not there yet, but I could share that opinion if these next round of projects are abysmal. I'll say that. Let's
I'll
just
say that. I just say that's the most relevant and intelligent thing he said all night.
it is.
So I will give him that.
I know that's good. That's good.
There
Now
is hope for this generation. I'll just put it that way.
there is the other thing that you have to look at, though. I think whenever you're talking about things like this, I mean, you have to. I guess I should preface this. I think that I'm gonna wait until the next round of projects after Kennedy's stuff takes hold. Like, I'll judge it partially. I mean, look, anything that came out, if you guys have seen our reviews of things like The Acolyte and stuff like that, we tear that stuff apart. I mean, when things warrant it, we will tear it apart. When we're watching Andor and it's amazing and, we sing its praises because it deserves it, at least in our opinion. Because again, this is like a discussion show. That's why all opinions, even Dom's, are welcome. But, at some point, yeah, if the thing just, let's put it this way, as long as Disney has it, if they keep torching it. Now, if they ever sold the property, well, then I might take a look and go, okay, well, maybe the new, owners of the franchise might actually be okay. Grandmaster says, everything can rebound. Good writing, good stories, and good characters will bring people back. No one will support crapola. Amen to that, brother. Jeremy says, our franchise is diminishing from too much content. Sometimes less is more. That's actually a compelling
yeah, you
thought
have too much of a good thing.
Yeah, discussion point. Because there's two ways you can look at it. The first way is, which is what we were all hoping with Star Wars. The world is so vast, and there's so many stories that you can tell, that it seemed a shame to only have, a movie or a project every couple of years or something. And so when they initially said, hey, look, we're going to do 2 movies a year, and then we're going to fill it in with the Disney Plus shows, I'll be honest, I was on board with that. I almost looked at it like the expanded universe was coming into live action because, well, not that they were releasing books constantly, but it was regular. And I think that there's a lot of stories they could tell in Star Wars. So, too much content? I mean, yeah, because look at what do they call it? Like Marvel fatigue or something? Or comic book
Superhero fatigue.
Yeah, superhero, yeah. Yeah, I've heard that both ways. Comic book fatigue or superhero fatigue. I mean, people, people just get a little sick of it. All right. New chatter. Moonlit Atlas says, thoughts on the High Republic books? So, you only read the comics, right? you actually read any of the real books?
Mm, yeah, the comics is where, yeah, I
So I
started.
I did the comics. I don't know. I did maybe a quarter of the books. I think the books are good. I mean, at first it was a little strange because they started going all over the place with the storytelling, like they would hit different parts, and it wasn't linear. But after a while, I started to really get into it, and I do like it. I do like the characters. I like the use of the Force. I like the different variations that each of the Jedi had. Like of our Chris hearing the Force in song, and things like that. I mean, I really thought that was pretty cool. I unfortunately, and this is true with all the Star Wars books. I mean, I did the same. I remember I used to tease you all the time because you bought like the Queen's Peril or something like that, and
Oh, we're talking about Queens.
well, Queen's Peril was one of them. There was like three of them. It was like a trilogy,
Yeah,
and you bought whatever the first one was.
yeah, it
And
took me like forever.
yeah, well, the funny thing
Yeah.
is, I ended up buying like all three of them, and I haven't touched them. And actually, there's a lot of Star Wars books, a couple audiobooks, and a few of the regular ones, even like the Ahsoka novel, which I was really looking forward to reading. And I mean, even books in general, I'm really behind in because I've just been so swamped with everything. You know, work has been crazy, taking care of my mom. I mean, it's just all been so nuts that I hardly have any time to really do anything. Right. So, but I would like to get into more and actually finish out the series because the number of books of the High Republic that I read, I really enjoyed. I really thought it was cool. I thought that it actually had a really interesting group of stories. And again, it was planned. Grandmaster says, I agree, less is more. There is too much. Quality, not quantity. Unfortunately, they are only obsessed with making money, and when the money stops coming in or they start losing money, they'll do less. Yeah. I think we can all agree. It's basically turned into I think we mentioned that earlier even. It's more about duplicating that super Star Wars box office than it is about really diving into a good story, good characters, maybe taking a chance on something that might not make a couple $1 billion. Like their shows, for instance.
Well, it's just gonna be curious because I know like Dave Filoni didn't like Andor, so it's just kind of like,
Yeah, that one made me wince a little bit.
so it's like one of the more successful projects you all put out, like you don't like.
Well,
So it
because
makes me
it's
wonder, like,
it's not
you know,
it's a little bit more cerebral. It's not like Lucas Star Wars.
you know,
Um,
and
but
that's
I
what I'm saying.
mean,
Like, if he, I would love to hear his rationale as to why, and
I bet Grandmaster
like,
knows.
yeah, probably, and my thing is like, what would he change? Like, if he were to run that project, what would he do different?
He'd make it like Ahsoka.
Uh,
I mean, unfortunately, I don't think I'm wrong there. Uh, Grandmaster says, on a side note, Daryl referenced WWE earlier. Is Daryl a WWE fan? Did he enjoy the Rumble?
I am a fan. I did not watch this year's Rumble. I've heard about it. Um, but yeah, I'm always I've been a fan since like the '80s. So, um, but I love, especially like the Unreal series that they have now. Just seeing how they like build the storylines and like, okay, how does this person get from? How do we get to this event? And how do we tell this story? And if something happens, how do we like that, all the storytelling, because it's all live and you're dealing with real people and it's, things happen, like someone getting pregnant. Okay, we can't use you anymore because you're pregnant. Like, how do you flip that? So all those things are interesting to me.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember, man, even before the WWE, the WWF.
Yes.
The very
Yes.
early days. Well, not the
Very early
earliest,
days.
but earlier.
Mm-hmm.
Moonlit Atlas, the main books talking about the High Republic, provide a great story that is original and not a rehash. Also goes to show how powerful but blind the Jedi truly were, and helps explain their eventual degradation, of course. Yeah, I mean, I definitely got the sense of that. I mean, that's one of the things that I really liked was that the stories were very original. Um, they did go into a lot, but they also, it wasn't just like expositional, right? I mean, there was a lot of really great adventure in those books as well. Highly recommend them, including to myself. I mean, it's not for a lack of not wanting to read the rest of them. It's just I read like 4 or 5 of them, and there's a bunch, and they came out in phases too. By the way, they actually released phases, and the comic books filled in some gaps. The comic series was really good. I mean, it's really cool, and I hope that they explore the High Republic a little bit more. It just depends because I don't think it was a huge moneymaker. But still, they brought oh man, my mind is terrible today. Like I'm forgetting everything. Cancel the V. The character they brought into the Acolyte. Help me out, somebody.
Uh,
What's her name? Ah, she was like
uh,
she was like a main High Republic character. Yes,
uh,
Venstra Row. Thank you, Moonlit.
yeah.
Yes. So I mean, I think that they could actually do a lot more with that. And I think that they should, because you alluded to it earlier. I think that they should start to veer away a little bit from the main characters and filling in. Look, I'm a huge fan of the filling in the gaps thing. I pointed out the comic series or the Bounty Hunters, um, Crimson Rain or something like that, where it started filling in some of the story, like when Boba Fett had gotten Han Solo and Carbonite, and he was delivering it to Jabba. It actually got stolen. A whole side thing, ensued. It was great. I mean, Kira, really well written character. She's awesome. I would love to see something on Dr. Aphra. I think it would be cool to put her into something live action or you know, animated. I mean, there's so many things that they could be doing in Star Wars that they don't. Like telling good stories, for instance. But I think definitely we can have some hope for the future. But again, you guys know how it is. Star Wars fans, we're all hope for the best, prepare for the worst. We're cautiously optimistic. Uh,
Right.
we're really giving our best shot here to trying to get into some of this stuff. But again, I mean, it's getting increasingly more difficult, and I'll be the first person to say that. Like I said, I've been a fan since, so let's just hope that this new team that's in, they take it and they bring it back to something that you have always said. We both have reiterated this, but you usually start it by saying, look, just give us a good story. Give us a good story with good
That's it.
characters. Just let's just start there. Let's just make that the priority and not necessarily worry about the rest. All right, let's end it on this. Jeremy says, sometimes I don't like all the gaps filled in. The fun with Star Wars is debating and imagining the gaps. Yeah, I know. Well, and sometimes, we were watching a lot of those YouTube ones where like the fans are just creating these AI versions and they're filling in the gaps.
Yeah.
And a lot of that's cool. I mean, actually, sure it's a little rough and maybe, but honestly, I hate to say it, but a lot of the writing and everything, character development and all that in some of those little short YouTube videos are better than what Disney's been putting.
You lying.
I mean, I think that's pretty much it. But I do agree with what Jeremy's saying, and that's sometimes, you don't have to fill in every gap, right? I mean, sometimes it is fun to leave it to your imagination, or maybe we don't need to know every little.
Right.
Yeah. So Moonlit, I lied. We'll end on this. Moonlit says, right? Didn't need to ever think about fuel in Star Wars. That's true. Grandmaster, I lied again. In A New Hope, do you guys remember when R2-D2 and C-3PO get into a pod and then detach? Their pod wasn't the only one that detached. They missed a huge opportunity with that plot hole. Well, then they... Oh, that's true. Because when they were talking about there was no life forms aboard, they were talking about the one with 3PO and R2. There was that other one. I do remember that. Yeah, you said there goes another one. It must have short circuited. Yeah, there you go. Other escape pod, a Star Wars story.
Yeah, it was Finn.
Yeah, right. Either that or yeah, maybe it was somebody from Rogue One.
All right.
Because I mean, if you remember, that took place like right after. Maybe it was that guy that was like, "It's him."
Man, yeah, great.
Yeah, that was still the best. All right. Well, I think that's gonna do it for tonight, guys. As always, it's been fun. There's nothing better. Good crowd tonight. That was another good thing. It was awesome. Great chats. Even Dom. I'll even say that. Had a few good points in there. So we do appreciate you guys chatting in. Of course, don't forget to like and subscribe, but especially like, because I know a lot of you guys subscribe. But if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. And if you do subscribe, make sure you hit the notification bell. We try to do this thing Sunday nights at 8, but a lot of times, as you can see, it has to move. If you want to know when it moves, we generally try to keep you guys updated through our social media channels, Discord and all that, Facebook, Instagram, X. However, if you hit the notification bell, you'll always know. So that's probably the best thing to do. We don't really know what we're talking about next week. Well, I mean, it's Super Bowl Sunday, so we're not going to do it that day. But maybe Monday night. I don't know. Anything jumping out at you?
The trailer.
Oh, yeah, right. Yeah, we could do that. All right, that's probably what we'll do. We'll talk about the Mandalorian and Grogu trailer. Maybe we'll react to it or something. All right. Grandmaster says goodnight. So I think with that, I'll do my usual...
you remember it this time?
No, wait. It's like they always say, "May the Force be with you." Is that it?
Oh my god!
I told you, dude. My mind is destroyed after the day I've had today. My mind is completely destroyed.
Oh, because last time you was like, "Wait," and you were looking at me. I'm like, "No, you gotta say your part."
Oh no, I remember the first part. Okay,
that's
the name. It's the name thing, right? All right. So until next time, I'm Eric Vansel.
I'm Daryl Sanders.
May the Force be with you.
Always.
Head to Head, a Star Wars podcast. Be sure to follow us on Twitter @HeadToHeadSW. Submit your questions for our next show. Visit our official website at headtoheadswpodcast.com. Until next time, may the Force be with you, always.